Welcome back to the Bible in 90 Days. We're on day 36. These next couple of days, it's really a treat. Studying the book of Job. It's really, even if you were to take this out of the Bible and look at it as a piece of literature, no, don't mark me wrong. I'm not saying that it doesn't belong in the Bible. It absolutely does. It's fascinating. It's a fascinating story. But what I'm saying is, if you were to pull it out and just read the book of Job as literature, it is one of the most profound pieces of literature that's ever been written. It's up there with, aside from the Bible, even though it's part of the Bible, it's up there with other giants of ancient literature. We don't have a date for Job. There are some people that say Job is older than Genesis, and dating Job is difficult because of so many different things in it. It's written with some ancient styles, and it's written with some more modern styles, and it's been adapted, I think, through the years. However it is, I'm not one that says that Job was written before Genesis. I think it's part of the intertestamental writings, but I have been taught that it was by people, and that, it's hard for us to say this or that. There's a lot of good questions we have for when we get to heaven. We get to ask Jesus, or we get to ask the apostles what they've learned about these things, or maybe we'll just know everything. I don't know what heaven's going to be like, but I do know that it's going to be awesome. And I've got so many questions. I've got a whole lifetime of questions to ask when I get there, and it'd be cool. But I love my curiosity. I love having questions. I love the pursuit of knowledge and wanting to learn, and reading in the book of Job answers some of those questions. It answers questions we have about God and how he talks with his angels, and how that whole council thing works, and how we just really get a glimpse of some really strange things in the book of Job. And it's really incredible. So we're in for a treat over the next 3 days. We're going to be in the book of Job. And what it is an argument between, aside from the testing that the devil does with Job, it is a story of argument. Job is afflicted by several different curses, and his friends come to him and saying that this must be some sin in his life. And you hear these friends, so-called friends, giving him such a hard time about these things. And he's keeps defending himself because he's lived without sin. Job is an upright man. He's taken care of his family and done all these things. And we learn some things about Job, and we really learn some things about God, especially on the third day when we get to the end of it, when God finally says his piece. But it's really, you can't read this story and not, I call it a story, I mean history, but we are looking at it as literature today. We're looking at it as a story, and it is. It's rightfully is a story, but that doesn't mean it's false, and it doesn't mean it's just a parable. I kind of believe that it's somewhat a parable, but like a true parable, a story that actually happened. So let's jump into the Word of God. We're in Job chapter 1. In the land of Uz there lived a man whose name was Job. This man was blameless and upright. He feared God and shunned evil. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters, and he owned 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 donkeys. He had a large number of servants. He was the greatest man among all the people of the East. His sons used to hold feasts in their homes on their birthdays, and then they would invite their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. When a period of feasting had run its course, Job would make arrangements for them to be purified. Early in the next morning, he would sacrifice a burnt offering for each of them, thinking, perhaps my children have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. This was Job's regular custom. Verse 6. One day the angels came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with them. The Lord said to Satan, "Where have you come from?" Satan answered the Lord, "From roaming throughout the earth, going back and forth on it." Then the Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on the earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil." Verse 9. Does Job fear God for nothing? Satan replied. Have you not put a hedge around him and his household and everything he has? You have blessed the work of his hands, so that his flocks and herds are spread throughout the land. Now stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. Verse 12. The Lord said to Satan, "Very well then, everything he has is in your power. But to the man himself, do not lay a finger." Then Satan went out from the presence of the Lord. One day Job's sons and daughters were feasting and drinking wine at the oldest brother's house. A messenger came to Job and said, "The oxen were plowing and the donkeys were grazing nearby, and the Sabaeans attacked and made off with them. They put the servants to the sword, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, another messenger came to him and said, "The fire fell from the heavens and burned up the sheep and the servants. I am the only one who has escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, another messenger came and said, "The Chaldeans formed 3 raiding parties and swept down on your camels and made off with them. They put the servants to the sword, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you." Verse 18. While he was still speaking, yet another messenger came to him and said, "Your sons and your daughters were feasting and drinking while at the oldest brother's house, when suddenly a mighty wind swept in from the desert and struck the 4 corners of the house. It collapsed on them and they are dead. I'm the only one who has escaped to tell you." At this, Job tore his robe and shaved his head, and then fell to the ground in worship and said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised." Verse 22. In all this, Job did not sin by charging God with wrongdoing. Chapter 2. On another day, the angels came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with them to present himself before him. And the Lord said to Satan, "Where have you come from?" Satan answered the Lord, "From roaming throughout the earth, going back and forth on it." Then the Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil, and he still maintains his integrity. Though you enticed me against him to ruin him without any reason." "Skin for skin," Satan replied. "A man will give all he has for his own life. Now stretch out your hand and strike his flesh and bones, and he will surely curse you to your face." The Lord said to Satan, "Very well then, he is in your hands, but you must spare his life." Verse 7. So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord and afflicted Job with painful sores from the soles of his feet to the crown of his head. Then Job took a piece of pottery and scraped himself with it, and as he sat among the ashes. Verse 9. His wife said to him, "Are you still maintaining your integrity? Curse God and die." He replied, "You are talking like a foolish woman. Shall we accept good from God and not trouble?" In all this, Job did not sin in what he said. Verse 11. Then when Job's 3 friends, Eliphaz, Temanite, and Bildad, the Shumanite, and Zophar, the Namathite, heard about all the troubles had come upon him. They set out from their homes and met together by agreement to go and sympathize with him and comfort him. So they saw from a distance they could hardly when they saw him from a distance they could hardly recognize him. They began to weep aloud, and they tore their robes and sprinkled dust on their heads. Then they sat on the ground with him for 7 days and 7 nights. No one said a word to him, because they saw how great his suffering was. Chapter 3. After this, Job opened his mouth and cursed the day of his birth. He said, "May the day of my birth perish, and the night that said, a boy is conceived. That day, may it turn to darkness. May God above not care about it. May no light shine on it. May gloom and utter darkness claim it once more. May a cloud settle over it. May blackness overwhelm it. That night, may thick darkness seize it. May it not be included among the days of the year, nor be entered in any of the months. May that night be barren. May no shout of joy be heard in it. May those who curse days curse that day. Those who are ready to rouse Leviathan, may its morning stars become dark. May it wait for daylight in vain, and not see the first rays of dawn. For it did not shut the doors of the womb on me, to hide trouble from my eyes. Why did I not perish at birth, and die as I came from the womb? Why were there knees to receive me, and breasts that I might be nursed? For now I would be lying down in peace. I would be asleep at rest, with the kings and rulers of the earth, who built for themselves places now lying in ruins, with princes who had gold, who filled their houses with silver. Or why was I not hidden away in the ground like a stillborn child, like an infant who never saw the light of day? There the wicked cease from turmoil, they were weary, and there the weary are at rest. Captives also enjoy their ease. They no longer hear the slave drivers shout. The small and the great are there, and their slaves are freed from their owners. Why is light given to those in misery, and life to the bitter of soul, to those who long for death that does not come, who search for it more than for hidden treasure, who are filled with gladness and rejoice when they reach the grave? Why is life given to man whose way is hidden from God, has hedged in? For sighing has become my daily food. My groans pour out like water. What I feared has come upon me. What I dreaded has happened to me. I have no peace, no quietness. I have no rest, but only turmoil. Chapter 4. Then Eliphaz, the Temanite, replied, "If someone ventures a word with you, will you be impatient? But who can keep from speaking? Think how you have instructed many, how you have strengthened the feeble hands. Your words have supported those who stumbled. You have strengthened faltering knees. But now trouble comes on you, and you are discouraged. It strikes you, and you are dismayed. Should not your piety be your confidence, and your blameless ways your hope? Consider now, who being innocent has ever perished? Why were the upright ever destroyed? Or were the upright ever destroyed? As I have observed, those who plow evil and those who sow trouble reap it. Verse 9. At the breath of God they perish. At the blast of his anger they are no more. The lions may roar and growl, yet teeth of the great lions are broken. The lion perishes for lack of prey, and the cubs of the lioness are scattered. Verse 12. A word has secretly brought to me. My ears caught a whisper of it. Amid disquieting dreams in the night, when deep sleep falls on people, fear and trembling seized me, and made all my bones shake. A spirit glided past my face, and the hair on my body stood on end. It stopped, but I could not tell what it was. A form stood before my eyes, and I heard a hushed voice. Can a mortal be more righteous than God? Can even a strong man be more pure than his Maker? If God places no trust in his servants, if he charges his angels with error, how much more those who live in houses of clay, whose foundations are in dust, who are crushed more readily than a moth? Between dawn and dusk they are broken to pieces. Unnoticed, they perish forever. Are not the cords of their tent pulled up, so that they die without wisdom? Call if you will, but who will answer you? To which of the holy ones will you turn? Resentment kills a fool, and envy slays the simple. I myself have seen a fool taking root, but suddenly his house was cursed. His children are far from safety, crushed in court without a defender. The hungry consume his harvest, taking it even among thorns, and the thirsty pant after his wealth. For hardship does not spring from the soil, nor does trouble sprout from the ground. Yet if a man is born to trouble, as surely as sparks fly upward, yet man is born to trouble, as surely as sparks fly upward. But if I were you, I would appeal to God. I would lay my cause before him. He performs wonders that cannot be fathomed, miracles that cannot be counted. He provides rain for the earth. He sends water on the countryside. The lowly he sets high, and those who mourn are lifted to safety. He thwarts the plans of the crafty, so that their hands achieve no success. He catches the wise in their craftiness, and the schemes of the wily are swept away. Darkness comes upon them in the daytime, and at noon they grove as in the night. He saves the needy from the sword in their mouth. He saves them from the clutches of the powerful. So the poor have hope, and injustice shuts its mouth. Verse 17. Blessed is the one whom God corrects. So do not despise the discipline of the Almighty. For he wounds, but he also binds up. He injures, but his hands also heal. From 6 calamities he will rescue you. In 7 no harm will touch you. In famine he will deliver you from death. In battle from the stroke of the sword. You will be protected from the slash of the tongue, from the lash of the tongue, and need not fear when destruction comes. You will laugh at destruction and famine. You will not fear wild animals, for you will have a covenant with the stones of the field, and the wild animals will be at peace with you. You will know that your tent is secure. You will take stock of your property and find nothing missing. You will know that your children will be many, your descendants like the grass of the earth. You will come to the grave in full vigor, like shaves gathered in season. We have examined this, and it is true. So hear it and apply it to yourself. Then Job replied, chapter 6. If only my anguish could be weighed, and all my misery be displaced on the scales, it would surely outweigh the sand of the seas. No wonder my words have been impetuous. The arrows of the Almighty are in me. My spirit drinks in their poison. God's terrors are marshaled against me. Why does a wild donkey bray when it eats grass, or an ox bellow when it has fodder? Is tasteless food eaten without salt, or is there flavor in the sap of the mallow? I refuse to touch it. Such food makes me ill. Oh, that I might have my request, that God would grant what I hope for, that God would be willing to crush me, to let loose his hand and cut off my life. Then I would still have this consolation, my joy in unrelenting pain, that I had not denied the words of the Holy One. What strength do I have that I should still hope? What prospects should I be patient? Do I have the strength of stone? Is my flesh bronze? Do I have any power to help myself, now that success has been driven from me? Verse 14, anyone who withholds kindness from a friend forsakes the fear of the Almighty. My brothers are as undependable as intermittent streams, as the streams that overflow when darkness and by thawing ice, and swollen with melting snow, but that stop flowing in the dry season, and the heat vanishes from their channel, and in the heat vanishes from their channels. Verse 18, caravans turn aside from their routes, they go off into the wasteland and perish. The caravans of Tema look for water, the traveling merchants of Sheba look in hope. They are distressed because they had been confident. They arrive there only to be disappointed. Now you too have proved to be of no help. You see something dreadful and are afraid. Have I ever said, give me something on my behalf? Pay ransom for me from your wealth? Deliver me from the hand of the enemy? Rescue me from the clutches of the ruthless? Teach me, and I'll be quiet. Show me where I have been wrong. How painful are honest words, but what do your arguments prove? What do you mean to correct what I say and treat my desperate words as wind? Would you even cast you would even cast lots for the fatherless and barter away your friend? But now be so kind as to look at me. Would I lie to your face? Relent. Do not be unjust. Reconsider, for my integrity is at stake. Is there any wickedness on my lips? Can my mouth not discern malice? Chapter 7. Do not mortals have hard service on earth? Are not their days like those of hired laborers? Like a slave longing for the evening shadows, or a hired laborer waiting to be paid? So I have been allotted months of futility, and nights of misery have been assigned to me. When I lie down, I think, how long before I get up? The night drags on, and I toss and turn until dawn. My body is clothed with worms and scabs. My skin is broken and festering. My days are swifter than a weaver's shuttle. They come and they come to an end without hope. Remember, O God, that my life is but a breath. My eyes will never see happiness again. The eye that now sees me will see me no longer. You will look for me, but I will be no more. As a cloud vanishes and is gone, so one who goes down to the grave does not return. So one who goes down to the grave does not return. He will never come to his house again. His place will know him no more. Verse 11. Therefore I will not keep silent. I will speak out in the anguish of my spirit. I will complain in the bitterness of my soul. Verse 12. Am I the sea or the monster of the deep that you put me under guard? When I think my bed will comfort me, and my couch will then when I think my bed will comfort me, and my couch will ease my complaint, even then you frighten me with dreams and terrify me with visions, so that I prefer strangling and death rather than this body of mine. I despise my life. I would not live I would not live forever. Let me alone. My days have no meaning. What is mankind that you make so much of them, that you give them so much attention, that you examine them from morning and test them in every moment? Verse 19. Will you never look away from me, or let me alone, even for an instant? If I have sinned, what have I done to you? You who see everything we do? Why have you made me your target? Why have I become a burden to you? Why do you not pardon my offenses and forgive my sins? For I will soon lie down in the dust, and you will search for me, but I will be no more. Chapter 8. Then Bildad the Shuhite replied, How long will you say such things? Your words are a blustering wind. Does God pervert justice? Does the Almighty pervert what is right? When your children sinned against him, he gave them over to the penalty of their sin. But if you will seek God earnestly and plead with the Almighty, if you are pure and upright, even now he will rouse himself on your behalf and restore you to your prosperous state. Your beginnings will seem humble, so prosperous your future will be. Verse 8. As the former generation and the wind ask the former generation and find out what their ancestors learned. For we were born only yesterday and know nothing, and our days on earth are but a shadow. Will they not instruct you and tell you? Will they not bring forth words from their understanding? Verse 11. Can papyrus grow tall where there is no marsh? Can reeds thrive without water? While still growing and uncut, they wither more quickly than grass. Such is the destiny of all who forget God. So perishes hope of the godless. Verse 14. What they trust in is fragile. What they rely on is a spider's web. They lean on the web, but it gives way, and they cling to it, but it does not hold. They are all like well-watered plant in the sunshine, spreading roots over the garden. When it entwines in its roots in around a pile of rocks and looks for a place among the stones. But when it is torn from its spot, the place disowns it and says, I never saw you. Surely its life withers away, and from the soil other plants grow. Surely God does not reject one who is blameless, or strengthen the hands of evildoers. Verse 21. Yet he will yet fill your lips with laughter and your lips with shouts of joy. Your enemies will be clothed in shame, and the tents of the wicked will be no more. Chapter 9. Then Job replied, Indeed, I know what is true, but how can mere mortals prove their innocence before God? Though they wished to dispute with him, they could not answer him one time out of 1,000. His wisdom is profound, his power is vast. Who has resisted him and come out unscathed? He moves mountains without their knowing it, and overruns them in his anger. He shakes the earth from its place and makes its pillars tremble. He speaks to the sun, and it does not shine. He seals off the light of the stars. He alone stretches out the heavens and treads on the waves of the sea. He is the maker of the Bear and Orion and the Pleiades and the constellations of the south. He performs wonders that cannot be fathomed, miracles that cannot be counted. When he passes me, I cannot see him. When he goes by, I cannot perceive him. If he snatches away, who can stop him? Who can say to him, what are you doing? Verse 13. God does not restrain his anger. Even the cohorts of Rahab cowered at his feet. How can I dispute with him? How can I find words to argue with him? Though I were innocent, I could not answer him. I could only plead with my judge for mercy. Verse 16. Even if I summoned him and he responded, I do not believe he would give me a hearing. He would crush me with a storm and multiply my wounds for no reason. Verse 18. He would not let me catch my breath, but would overwhelm me with misery. If it's a matter of strength, he is mighty. If it's a matter of justice, who can challenge him? Even if I were innocent, my mouth would condemn me. If I were blameless, I would pronounce me guilty. 21. Although I am blameless, I have no concern for myself. I despise my own life. It is all the same. That is why I say, he destroys both the blameless and the wicked. When a scourge brings sudden death, he mocks the despair of the innocent. Verse 24. When a land falls into the hands of the wicked, he blindfolds its judges. If it is not he, then who is it? Verse 25. My days are swifter than a runner. They fly away without a glimpse of joy. They skim past like boats of papyrus, like eagles swooping down on their prey. If I say, I will forget my complaint, I will change my expression and smile, I still dread all my sufferings, for I know you would not hold me innocent. Since I am already found guilty, why would I struggle in vain? Even if I washed myself with soap, my hands with cleansing powder, who would plunge me into a slime pit so that even my clothes would detest me? He is not a mere mortal like me, that I might answer him, that we might confront each other in court. If only there were someone to mediate between us, someone to bring us together, someone to remove God's rod from me, so that his terror would frighten me no more. Then I would speak up without fear of him. But as now it stands with me, I cannot. Chapter 10. I loathe my very life. Therefore I give free rein to my complaint, and speak out of the bitterness of my soul. I say to God, do not declare me guilty, but tell me what the charges you have against me. Verse 3. Does it please you to oppress me, to spurn the work of your hands, while you smile on the plans of the wicked? Do you have eyes of flesh? Do you see as a mortal sees? Are your days like those of a mortal, or your ears like those of a strong man, that you must search out my faults and probe after my sin, though you know that I am not guilty, and that no one can rescue me from your hand? Verse 8. Your hands shaped me and made me. Will you now turn and destroy me? Remember that you molded me like clay. Will you now turn me to dust again? Did you not pour me out like milk and curdle me like cheese, clothe me with skin and flesh, and knit me together with the bones and sinews? Verse 12. You gave me life and showed me kindness, and in your providence watched over my spirit. But this is what you concealed in your heart, and I know that this was in your mind. If I sinned, then you would be watching me, and would not let my offense go unpunished. Verse 15. If I am guilty, woe to me. Even if I am innocent, I cannot lift my head, for I am full of shame and drowned in my affliction. If I hold my head high, you stalk me like a lion, and again display your awesome power against me. You bring new witnesses against me, and increase your anger toward me. Your forces have come against me, wave upon wave. Why then did you bring me out of the womb? I wish that I had died before any eye saw me. If only I had never come into being, or had been carried straight from the womb to the grave. Verse 20. Are not my days many? Are not my few days almost over? Turn away from me so I can have a moment's joy before I go to the place of no return, to the land of gloom and utter darkness, to the land of deepest night, of utter darkness and disorder, where even the light is like darkness. Chapter 11. Then Zophar the Naamathite replied, Are all these words to go unanswered? Is the talker to be vindicated? Will your idle talk reduce others to silence? Will no one rebuke you when you mock? If you say to God, My beliefs are flawless, and I am pure in your sight, oh, how I wish that God would speak, that he would open his lips against you, and disclose to you the secrets of wisdom, for true wisdom has two sides. Know this, God has even forgotten some of your sin. Verse 7. Can you fathom the mysteries of God? Can you probe the limits of the Almighty? They are higher than even the heavens above. What can you do? They are deeper than the depths below. What can you know? Their measure is longer than the earth and wider than the sea. If he comes along and confines you in prison and convenes a court, who can oppose him? Surely he recognizes deceivers. And he sees the evil. He sees evil, and he does not take. Does he not take note? But when the witless can no more become wise than a donkey's colt can be born human. The witness can be no more wise than a donkey's colt can be born human. Sorry, that was kind of funny. Verse 13. Yet if you devote your heart to him and stretch out your hand to him, if you put away the sin that is in your hand and allow no evil to dwell in your tent, then, free of fault, you will lift up your face, you will stand firm and without fear, and you will surely forget your trouble, recalling it as only waters gone by. 17. Life will be brighter than noonday, and the darkness will become like morning. You will be secure, because there is hope. You will look about and take your rest in safety. You will lie down with no one to make you afraid, and many will court your favor. But the eyes of the wicked will fail, and escape will elude them. Their hope will become a dying gasp. Chapter 12. Then Job replied, Doubtless, you are the only people who matter, and wisdom will die with you. But I have a mind as well as you, and I am not inferior to you. Who does not know these things? I have become a laughing stock to my friends. Though I called on God and he answered, a mere laughing stock, though righteous and blameless. Those who are at ease have contempt for misfortune, as the fate of those whose feet are slipping. Verse 6, the tents of marauders are undisturbed, and those who provoke God are secure. The hand those God has in his hand. Verse 7, but ask the animals, and they will teach you, or the birds in the sky, and they will tell you, or speak to the earth, and it will teach you, or let the fish in the sea inform you. Which of all these does not know that the hand of the Lord has done this? In his hand is the life of every creature, and the breath of all mankind. Does not the ear test words as the tongue tastes food? Is not wisdom found among the aged? Does not life bring understanding? To God belong wisdom and power. Counsel and understanding are his. What he tears down cannot be rebuilt. Those he impairs cannot be released. If he holds back waters, there is drought. If he sets them loose, they devastate the land. To him belongs strength and insight. Both deceived and deceiver are his. He leads rulers away stripped. He makes fools of judges. He takes off the shackles put on by kings and ties a loincloth around their waist. He leads priests away stripped and overthrows officials long established. Verse 20, he silences the lips of trusted advisers and takes away discernment of elders. He pours contempt on nobles and disarms the mighty. He reveals the deep things of darkness and brings utter darkness into light. He makes nations great and destroys them. He enlarges nations and disperses them. He deprives the leaders of the earth their reason. He makes them wander in a trackless waste. Isn't that the truth? They grope in darkness with no light, that he makes them stagger like drunkards. Chapter 13. My eyes have seen all this, my ears have heard and understood it. What you know, I also know. I am not inferior to you, but I desire to speak to the Almighty and argue my case with God. Verse 4. Have you, however, smear me with lies. You are worthless physicians, all of you. If only you would be altogether silent, for that would be wisdom. Hear now my argument. Listen to the pleas of my lips. Will you speak wickedly on God's behalf? Will you speak deceitfully for him? Will you show him partiality? Will you argue the case for God? Would it turn out well if he examined you? Could you deceive him as you might deceive a mortal? He would surely call you to account. If you secretly showed partiality, would not his splendor terrify you? Would not the dread of him fall on you? Your maxims are proverbs of ashes. Your defenses are the defenses of clay. 13. Keep silent and let me speak. Then let come what may. Then let come to me what may. Why do I put myself in jeopardy and take my life in my hands? Though he slay me, yet I will hope in him. I will surely defend my ways to his face. Indeed, this will turn out for my deliverance, for no godless person would dare come before him. Verse 17. Listen carefully to what I say. Let my words ring in your ears. Now that I have prepared my case, I know I will be vindicated. Can anyone bring charges against me? If so, I will be silent and die. Verse 20. Only grant me these two things, God, and then I will not hide from you. Withdraw your hand far from me, and stop frightening me with your terrors. Then summon me, and I will answer. Or let me speak, and you reply to me. How many wrongs and sins have I committed? Show me my offense and my sin. Why do you hide your face and consider me your enemy? Will you torment a wind-blown leaf? Will you chase after dry chaff? For you write down bitter things against me and make me reap the sins of my youth. You fastened my feet in shackles. You keep close watch on all my paths by putting marks on the soles of my feet. So man wastes away like something rotten, like a garment eaten by moths. Chapter 14. Mortals born of woman are few, are of few days and full of trouble. They spring up like flowers and wither away. Like fleeting shadows, they do not endure. Verse 3. Do you fix your eye on them? Will you bring them before you for judgment? Who can bring what is pure from the impure? No one. A person's days are determined. You have decreed the number of his months. You have set limits he cannot exceed. So put away from him and let him alone till he has put his time like a hired laborer. Verse 7. At least there is hope for a tree. If it's cut down, it will sprout again. and if it shoots, if and its new shoots will not fail. Its roots may grow old in the ground, and its stump die in the soil. Yet at the scent of the water it will bud and put forth shoots like a plant. But when a man dies and is laid low, he breathes his last and is no more. As the water of the lake dries up, or a riverbed becomes parched and dry, so he lies down and does not rise. Until the heavens are no more, people will not awake, or be roused from their sleep. Verse 13. If only you would hide me in the grave and conceal me until your anger has passed. If only you would set a time and remember me. Verse 14. If someone dies, will they live again? All the days of my hard service I will wait for my renewal to come. You will call and I will answer you. You will long for the creature your hands have made. Surely then you will count my steps, but will not keep track of my sin. My offenses will be sealed up in a bag, and you will cover over my sin. Verse 18. But as a mountain erodes and crumbles, and a rock is moved from its place, as water wears away stones and torrents wash away the soil, so you destroy a person's hope. You overpower them once, and they are gone. You change their countenance and send them away. If their children are honored, they do not know it. If their offspring are brought low, they do not see it. If they feel but the pain of their own bodies, and mourn only for themselves. Chapter 15. Then Eliphaz the Temanite replied, would a wise person answer with empty notions, or fill their belly with the hot east wind? Why would they argue with useless words, but speeches that have no value? But you even undermine piety and hinder devotion to God. Your sin prompts your mouth, and you adopt the tongue of the crafty. Your own mouth condemns you, not mine. Your lips testify against you. Verse 7. Are you the first man ever born? Were you brought forth before the hills? Do you listen in on God's counsel? Do you have a monopoly on wisdom? What do you know that we don't know? What insights do you have that we do not have? The gray-haired and the aged are on our side, men even older than your father. Are God's consolations not enough for you? Words spoken gently to you? Verse 12. Sorry, I thought I had that wrong. Verse 12. Why has your heart carried you away, and why do your eyes flash, so that you vent your rage against God and pour out such words from your mouth? 14. What are mortals that they should become pure, that they could be pure, or those born of a woman that they could be righteous? If God places no trust in his holy ones, even in the heavens they are not pure in his eyes. How much less mortals who are vile and corrupt, who drink up evil like water? Listen to me, and I will explain to you. Let me tell you what I have seen, what the wise have declared, hiding nothing received from their ancestors. Verse 19. To whom alone in the land, to whom alone the land was given when no foreigners moved among them. All his days the wicked man suffers torment, and the ruthless man through all his years stored up for him. Terrifying sound fills his ears. When all seems well, marauders attack him. He despairs of escaping the realm of darkness. He is marked for the sword. He wanders about for food like a vulture. He knows the day of darkness is at hand. Distress and anguish fill him with terror. Troubles overwhelm him like a king poised to attack. Because he shakes his fist at God, and he vaunts himself against the Almighty, defiantly charging against him. with a thick, strong shield. Verse 27. Though his face is covered with fat, and his waist bulges with flesh, he will inhabit ruined towns, and houses where no one lives, houses crumbling to rubble, which will no longer be rich, and he will no longer be rich, and his wealth will not endure, nor will his possessions spread over the land. He will not escape the darkness. A flame will wither his shoots, and the breath of God's mouth will carry him away. Let him not deceive himself by trusting what is worthless, for he will get nothing in return. Verse 32. Before his time he will wither, and his branches will not flourish. He will be like a vine stripped of its unripe grapes, like an olive tree shedding its blossoms. For the company of the godless will be barren, and the fire will consume the tents of those who love bribes. Verse 35. They conceive trouble and give birth to evil. Their womb fashions deceit. Chapter 16. Then Job replied, I've heard many things like these. You are miserable comforters, all of you. Will your long-winded speeches never end? What ails what ails you that you keep on arguing? I also could speak like you if you were in my place. I could make fine speeches against you and shake my head at you. But my mouth would encourage you. Comfort from my lips would bring you relief. Yet if I speak, my pain is not relieved, and if I refrain, it does not go away. Surely God would have worn me out. Surely God, you would have worn me out. You have devastated my entire household. You have shriveled me up, and it has become a witness. My gauntness rises up and testifies against me. Verse 9. God assails me and tears me in his anger and gnashes his teeth at me. My opponent fastens on me like his piercing eyes. People open their mouths to jeer at me. They strike my cheek in scorn and unite together against me. God has turned me over to the ungodly and thrown me into the clutches of the wicked. All was well with me, but he shattered me. He seized me by the neck and crushed me. He has made me his target. His archers surround me. Without pity, he pierces my kidneys and spills my gall on the ground. Again and again he bursts upon me. He rushes at me like a warrior. I have sewed sackcloth over my skin and buried my brow in the dust. My face is red with weeping. Dark shadows ring my eyes, yet my hands have been free of violence, and my prayer is pure. Earth, do not cover my blood. May my cry never be laid to rest. Even now my witness is in heaven. My advocate is on high. My intercessor is my friend. As my eyes pour out tears to God on behalf of a man who pleads with God as one pleads for a friend. Verse 22. Only a few years will pass before I take the path of no return. Verse 17. My spirit is broken and my days are cut short. The grave awaits me. Surely mockers surround me. My eyes must dwell on their hostility. Verse 3. Give me, O God, the pledge you demand. Who else will put up scrutiny for me? You have closed their minds to understanding. Therefore, you will not let them triumph. If anyone denounces their friends for a reward, the eyes of their children will fail. Verse 6. God has made me a byword to everyone, a man in whose face people spit. My eyes have grown dim with grief. My whole frame is but a shadow. The upright are appalled at this. The innocent are aroused against the ungodly. Nevertheless, the righteous will hold to their ways, and those with clean hands will grow stronger. Verse 10. But come on, all of you, try again. I will find a wise man among you. My days have passed, my plans are shattered, yet the desires of my heart turn night into day. In the face of the darkness, light is near. If the only home I hope for is the grave, if I spread out my bed in the realm of darkness, if I say corruption, you are my father, and to the worm, my mother, my sister, then where is my hope? Where then is my hope? Who can see any hope for me? Will it go down in the gates of death? Will we descend together into the dust? Chapter 18. Then Bildad the Shuphite replied, When will you end these speeches? Be sensible, and then we can talk. Why are we regarded as cattle and considered stupid in your sight? You who tear yourself to pieces in your anger, is the earth to be abandoned for your sake, or must rocks be moved from their place? The lamp of the wicked man is snuffed out. The flame of its fire stops burning. Verse 6. The light in his tent becomes dark, and the lamp beside him goes out. The vigor of his step is weakened. His own schemes throw him down. His feet thrust him into a net. He wanders into its mesh. Verse 9. A trap seizes him by the heel, and a snare holds him fast. A noose is hidden for him on the ground, and his trap lies in his path. A trap lies in his path. Verse 11. Terrors startle him on every side, and the dog his every step. Calamity is hungry for him. Disaster is ready for him. When he falls, it eats away parts of his skin. For death's firstborn devours his limbs. He is torn from the security of his tent and marched off to the king of terrors. Fire resides in his tent. Burning sulfur is scattered over his dwelling. His roots dry up below, and his branches wither above. Verse 17. The memory of him perishes from the earth. He has no name in the land. He is driven from light into the realm of darkness, and is banished from the world. He has no offspring or descendants among his people, no survivor where once he lived. Verse 20. People of the west are appalled at his fate. Those of the east are seized with horror. Surely, such is the dwelling of an evil man. Such is the place of one who does not know God. Chapter 19. Then Job replied, How long will you torment me and crush me with words? 10 times now you have reproached me. Shamelessly you attack me. If it's true that I have gone astray, my error remains my concern alone. If indeed you would exalt yourselves above me, and use my humiliation against me, then you would know that God has wronged me, and drawn his net around me. Verse 7. Though I cry violence, I get no response. Though I call for help, there is no justice. He has blocked my way so I cannot pass. He has shrouded my paths in darkness. He has stripped me of my honor, and removed the crown from my head, and he tears me down on every side until I am gone. He uproots me uproots my hope like a tree. His anger burns against me, and he counts me among his enemies. His troops advance in force. They build a siege ramp against me, and encamp around my tent. Verse 13. He has alienated my family from me. My acquaintances are completely estranged from me. Verse 14. My relatives have gone away. My closest friends have forgotten me. My guests and my female servants count me a foreigner. They look on me as a stranger. I summon my servant, but he does not answer. Though I beg him with my own mouth, my breath is offensive to my wife. I am loathsome to my own family. Even the little boys scorn me when I appear. They ridicule me. All my intimate friends detest me. Those I love have turned against me. I am nothing but skin and bones. I have escaped only by the skin of my teeth. Verse 21. Have pity on me, my friends. Have pity, for the hand of God has struck me. Why do you pursue me as God does? Will you never get enough of my flesh? Oh, that my words were recorded, so that they were written on a scroll, and that they were inscribed with an iron tool on lead, or engraved in a rock forever. I know that my Redeemer lives, and that in the end he will stand on the earth. After my skin has been destroyed, yet in my flesh I will see God. I myself will see him with my own eyes, and not another. How my heart yearns within me. If you say, how will we how will we hound him, since there is no since the root of trouble lies in him? Should you fear the sword yourselves? For wrath will bring punishment by the sword, and then you will know that there is judgment. That's all for today. Man, I wish I had time to read these and practice so I could even read it a little better. But man, I just love that poetry. The, that's something we haven't got into much in the Bible is poetry, and now we're just bombarded with it. I really just love this story. You know, every time we get to a new book in the Bible, I have a new favorite, and today my favorite is Job. We are there, guys, man. You know, this story is just one of supreme sorrow. You know, people suffer in the world, but you can feel Job's pain and in the way that he talks, and you can see that even the devil had power over his friends who are somewhat righteous men. They're blinded. You know, God has let the devil do these things to Job to prove really the character of Job, and he hasn't lost it. He's come very, very close. He's angry, and he's even kind of angry at God. But what he wants is to die. He wants to die so much that he wished that he was never born because of the pain that he's going through. Man, he can't walk. He can't talk. He can't. His wife is against him. His friends have come to see him. They sat with him and looked at him for 7 days. And he wished that they would have stayed silent for 7 more days. And they can't keep, I mean, it's just like, when we see someone going through some hard times, a lot of times they deserve the things. When I've done stupid things, I've deserved the hard times I got for it. But I've also been accused of things that I didn't do. And that's where Job is right now. And that's a bad spot to be in, being accused of something you didn't do. You must have sinned. God doesn't curse people that haven't sinned. Well, I think something to get from this story is that the worst pain in our lives is really nothing to the eternity of eternity of the worst pain we can go through, like a pain that doesn't go away, like a toothache that just destroys you. I'm talking about one of those back molar toothaches that just you have to hide from the world in. That kind of pain constantly is kind of how he is. And we need some support. So this book teaches us to support our friends, to love them, even if they are in their problems. Um, well, all right, I babbled enough. God loves you, brothers and sisters. I love you too. Have a great day.